raffinarium, nous avons le diamant, nous avons l'or, nous avons le pétrole. Et on vit comme des esclaves. Pourquoi jusqu'à quand? On ne pourra pas l'accepter.
Following the military takeover in Niger, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, took an unprecedented step of threatening to invade Niger to reverse the coup. This is in addition to imposing economic sanctions on the people of Niger. Never before in the history of ECOWAS has there been a threat of military intervention in any West African country when soldiers have seized power from elected governments. And so the question must be asked as to why ECOWAS leaders are now thinking about taking the extreme step of invading a sovereign African state. Is it because they have had enough of democratically elected governments being overthrown by military officers? Let us find out the answer to this key question in this video. ECOWAS leaders would like us to believe that they care so much about democracy, and that is why they want to put an end to the trend of military takeovers in West Africa. But are these ECOWAS leaders themselves practicing real democracy in their countries? A popular sentiment we have heard from Nigerians who support the coup is the fact that they can no longer accept to live in poverty when their country is rich in terms of natural resources. Is this unjust situation I just described not the same one you would find in Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal, and all other ECOWAS countries? After all the great faith that Africans have placed in multi-party democracy for many decades now, what has been their reward? Has it not been never-ending hardship, ever-increasing corruption by politicians, and ceaseless deception during election campaigns? Democracy is not and cannot only be about ballot boxes and elections. What has been the real benefit of democracy to the people of Ghana after the past 30 years of adopting multi-party democracy? Millions of Ghanaians continue to live in extreme poverty, and many do not have access to the basic necessities of life, like safe drinking water, healthcare, and education. This is all in spite of the fact that Ghana is blessed with abundant natural resources ranging from oil, gold, diamonds to cocoa. And so how can the president of Ghana think he has the moral right to support the invasion of another African state when he himself has failed his own people? The same applies to Nigeria, where the benefits of democracy are nowhere to be seen by the tens of millions of Nigerians who live in extreme poverty, and access to decent healthcare and education remains a dream for many.
Nigerians are not doing great because our government are not there for us. We the poor people, we are the ones suffering, not our government. Our children need good education, so they should provide good road and good water for us to drink, and good education for our children, good schools, because our children are staying in the house. It's not good.
Africans refuse to accept a democracy that benefits a few whilst impoverishing the majority.
Vraiment sont braves et je les soutiens. Vraiment 100%. Vraiment, on a beaucoup souffert. On a beaucoup souffert.
When the young Senegalese, Ghanaians, and Nigerians are so deprived of opportunities, which leaves them desperate, resulting in them embarking on perilous journeys in search of a better life, how can their leaders be focusing on attacking Niger? There is no greater indictment on the leaders of ECOWAS than the fact that, despite the great wealth their various countries are blessed with, they have failed woefully to provide the most basic needs for their people. This has condemned most West Africans to the most degrading conditions, forcing many to go to extreme lengths just to leave their home countries for greener pastures.
No problem, I have to take the risk. You know, when you want to achieve something, you have to risk. Yes, that's why I prefer to go to Europe.
Even to risk your life?
It's God who has the last word. I must make it for my family.
What is most likely is that ECOWAS leaders are scared of their own positions, seeing their counterparts in Guinea, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger being deposed in coups that are clearly supported by the masses. They fear what some call the domino effect, which is what appears to be happening with 4 successive coups in 4 West African countries. Knowing very well that they have failed their people just like the deposed presidents, ECOWAS leaders are now attempting to stem the tide of popular coups before they fall victim to. But instead of attacking Niger, ECOWAS leaders rather need to change their ways and focus on improving the lives of their own people. In other words, ECOWAS leaders need to ensure that there is real democracy in their own countries rather than the fake democracies that begin and end with elections, because that is the most effective way to prevent popular military coups. At this point, let me address a misconception about Africans and military coups. There is a view held by some people that Africans love military rule, but this is not backed up by the facts. Here is an excerpt from an Afrobarometer survey from 2002 conducted in 12 African countries on the preference of Africans for democracy or military rule. More than 2 out of 3 Africans interviewed said that democracy is always preferable to non-democratic forms of government. At the same time, clear majorities reject authoritarian alternatives like military rule, one-man rule, and one-party rule. These findings suggest that experiments with multi-party democracy have a wide popular base and that dictators and military rulers have been roundly rejected. Clearly, Africans placed all their hopes in multi-party democracy, and this is further confirmed by the high voter turnouts in elections across the continent. Over 19 years later in 2002, another Afrobarometer report, this time conducted across 30 African countries, resulted in these findings. 7 in 10 Africans say that democracy is preferable to any other kind of government. While this is down modestly from 73% a decade ago, more specific indicators seem to affirm popular commitments to democracy. Large and steady majorities consistently reject authoritarian alternatives, including military rule, one-party rule, and one-person rule. These facts I have just presented comprehensively prove that Africans do not have a love for military coups. In fact, the majority of Africans have consistently been against it. So what accounts for the popular support we have been witnessing with virtually all the coups in West Africa within the past year? The outpouring of joy by Malians, Burkinabés, and others should be seen in the context of the great hopes they placed in democracy not materializing. Having suffered so much for so long under corrupt elected leaders with no accountability or justice, Africans have so long yearned and continue to yearn for some justice to be done, and it is understandable that they cling to any opportunity for this to happen.
We can never be poor in our country except we have poor leaders, selected political gang of robbers.
Finally, I would like to say a few things about the unfortunate economic attack ECOWAS is waging on the people of Niger. These sanctions are inhumane, and the Nigerian people are being punished for no just reason. The lives of millions of poor Nigerians are being put at risk by ECOWAS for an act they had no hand in. Thankfully, the governments of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea have refused to enforce these sanctions in solidarity with their Nigerian brothers and sisters in an amazing show of Pan-African solidarity. Also, the leaders of Mali and Burkina Faso have warned ECOWAS against invading Niger. By attempting to scapegoat Niger, ECOWAS leaders have further weakened their own positions because their stance goes against the popular opinions of Africans across Africa. The grandstanding is not going to save them. Only transparent and accountable governance that focuses on improving the lives of the people can give them the legitimacy and protection they seek. ECOWAS leaders need to know that they can only fool some of the people sometimes, but they cannot fool all the people all the time. Democracy must be for the people and in the interest of the people to be considered real democracy. Please do support us by subscribing to our channel and do like the video and share with others. Thank you so much for watching.